Let me tell you my story.
My skin is always like this.
Let's talk about sex and put an end to fossil fuel exploitation to prevent environmental catastrophe.
There is a place where I sometimes find myself. It is a pit of disturbing sounds, so loud at times they seem to escape my own headspace, and uncomfortable sensations that travel throughout my entire body, aching, nauseating. It is a pit where I am falling, and the world I'm leaving behind gets heavier and heavier. My chest struggles to expand. I used to think that the only way to escape this pit was through distraction, through pretending that I wasn't in that pit, through escaping that reality. I discovered that this pit is not just a place to be falling, but it is a place to uncover what has been buried deep beneath false perception. Beyond a sight distorted by fear. Beyond the hard blows of culture and hammered in ideas of how one should feel, of how one should compose themselves. I found that the place before this pit is also rather unpleasant. It is a place where everything slows down and drags on, where inspiration is nowhere to be found. It's like a still puddle of water where fish can't even live, just a buildup of stinking, rotting bacteria, an unbearable stillness. Ay, ay, ay. Flow. It is the state of moving in a continuous and steady stream. When we are thriving, we feel that we are in flow. This is where our creativity is high and our activity comes easy. Something like a flowing river. We could say that our lives are very much like water, flowing from beginnings to endings. Our bodies come with cycles of growth, shedding, and regeneration. The food that we consume from the soil eventually returns to the soil. We follow our life paths and overcome the obstacles that get in the way. But what happens when these cycles start to feel like they're not being completed? We stagnate. Stagnation is a state of being still, of not moving, like the still puddle of water. We get stuck in one place and our lives start to release unpleasant odors. We wake up feeling uninspired and unmotivated to live out the day. And we start feeling things that we don't want to be feeling. And this makes us so angry at ourselves, poking holes through our minds and bodies in search of some kind of relief, as if we were covered in this thick layer of muck. Sometimes even, we block off the people that most love us. We isolate ourselves from the world around us, and an example of stagnation is sickness. The body stagnates from bad lifestyle choices and unresolved emotions. When it can no longer support what you are doing, it starts to fail. In traditional Chinese medicine, the body achieves health only through balance of emotional, physical, and mental aspects. When there is a disbalance in either of these areas, sickness will show itself up in one way or another. Nobody enjoys being sick, but it is this bodily stagnation that saves us from long-term illnesses down the road. In fact, not too long ago, I was sick with dengue fever, and I experienced a prolonged period of stagnation. Day by day, I was watching my interests and my passions leave me. I felt numb, and I felt no resistance whatsoever to this vertigo that kept pulling me down, back to my bed. These 15 days of sickness were a process of detoxification. There were things in my life that no longer needed to be there, and that were holding me back in one way or another. So what about stagnation in nature? The constructive law, founded by Adrian Bejan, states that everything in life flows. Whether it be trees with their expanding branches and roots to lightning or the brain, or rivers connecting to streams and lakes. The constructive law does not view stagnation as the opposite of flow. In fact, it hardly takes any notice of it. In nature, when something halts, it is a transitioning of direction. It is a shift in movement or speed. It is simply the space for things to change, for things to evolve. Naturally occurring forests happen in some type of forest every year. They enhance the economical ecology, the economy of the ecology, and get rid of any excess buildups of fuel. Natural destruction is not viewed as an ending in its own ecosystem. There is no such thing as the end of it in nature. Fires actually change both the density and the composition of the forest. They are only assisting to their own evolution. So this leads me back to the question that put me on this exploration in the first place. What is this overpowering feeling of stagnation that humans feel? Stagnation is what we experience when we resist the flow of our own lives, the flow of our thoughts, the flow of our emotions, the flow of this reality around us. Stagnation, rather than being a place where everything stops, is a place where flow itself is trying to make its way through. And it's gone. Through the gaps, through the holes in the dam. So looking at the bigger picture of our lives, stagnation doesn't seem so bad after all. It brings forth reflection, rest, growth, change, gratitude. But there is no denying that it is not a place where we want to be. When we're in the middle of it, you can't convince anyone that it's a good place to be in. This is okay though. There are ways in which we can better cope with stagnation. I identified some of the patterns as the poisons and the antidotes that put us in stagnation in the first place. Knowing how to approach these is what makes the process a valuable one in the first place. One of the poisons is denial. Denial of the signs that life is currently sending at us. When we don't listen to these signs for too long, we reach dead ends. These dead ends can manifest themselves as addictive behaviors, anxiety, anguish, or just physical pain in the body. These signs come as emotions sometimes. So take the example of grief. And the antidote would be to feel. So according to Martín Prechtel, from his insights on Sutujil Mayan shamanic tradition, the unexpressed grief in today's society is a leading cause for most of the individual, cultural, and social maladies that we are experiencing. So according to Prechtel, if you have 2 centuries of people who have not properly grieved, this grief will come back to hunt their grandchildren as ghosts. Martín Prechtel is trying to tell us that By not tending to the grief that we are feeling right now, we are poisoning the generations to come. Another poison is indoctrination. And this is when an idea or a set of beliefs is imposed upon a group of people with the aim of getting them to only believe in that without questioning it. So I want you all to close your eyes. Picture your own bubble. This is the place where everything flows. This is where you thrive, where your creativity comes best. This bubble consists of external and internal experiences. It is life as you perceive it, and life as it happens to you. But no matter how much influence the outside world has on this bubble, you are the only one who can really control it. You may open your eyes. Now imagine forcing this bubble of yours to fit into the bubble of someone else's. This is what a lot of social structures attempt to do to us. This is where the whole concept of being a slave to the system comes from. This is where we lose our sense of individuality, thinking things like, I'm just not a creative person. The antidote to this is embracing your individual flow. And this is how it works. So, by befriending your dark sides as much as your bright sides, you get a better understanding of why you are. And it becomes easier for you to accept the way that others are. Think of your biggest idols. These are the people that have revolutionized the world in ways that nobody else could have. These are people that knew how to be in their own flow. By navigating through the roughest to the smoothest tides of their own oceans, if that makes sense, by sitting through the darkness and pressure of their stagnations and coming out the other end, holding diamonds in their hands, ready to share this with the rest of the world. So when talking about embracing your flow, first you need to know how to accept yourself. And in accepting ourselves, we often stay on the very surface of what it is we are accepting about ourselves, not realizing that truly accepting ourselves means accepting our worst moods, accepting our weaknesses, accepting the things that irritate us most about other people, and just all the other things that we feel the need to conceal ourselves from feeling. It is by identifying these weaknesses that we can start to crack the hard shells that we have built around certain parts of ourselves. When I was a little girl, I suddenly became very uncomfortable with my own body. I was terrified of being naked in front of anyone. Only 8 years old, and it was impossible for me to shower with my friends. This, to me, was a stagnant reality. As much as I loved to go swimming, I dreaded the time when I would have to get undressed. The stagnation in my life was not only a phase, but it was a solid block that I would find myself having to dissolve with my own hands because nobody else could do it for me. So for years, I swam through murky waters, disconnected from the freedom that comes with being comfortable in our own bodies. I could share a lot more observations with you about stagnation, but everyone's experience of stagnation greatly differs from one to the other. So instead, I encourage you to continue unveiling this experience for yourself. By being comfortable with our best and worst sides, by being able to tap into our own bubble of flow, even when everything seems to have stopped, we become more useful, not just for ourselves, but for everybody around us. There are periods of darkness and periods of light in our days, in our lives, in astronomical cycles, in everything. No matter how much you choose to celebrate or feed one of them, the other one is there just as much. Like all energy in the universe, it cannot be annihilated. It is merely transferred. So rather than trying to conceal all the ugly parts of our lives, we can dig deep into them, into these pits of darkness and stagnation, and find the gold that is promised, of the flow that is at the end of every pit. Thank you.